I mean, needless to say, in programmatic, live streaming has become a primary focus. Not only within the context of streaming itself, but more broadly, we see it as the largest area of innovation, and broadly where we see the greatest potential for improvement relative to current state. Lots of investment still to be made, certainly, technically and otherwise, but for us, we are putting a ton of resource and effort, recognizing that it's a relatively recent growth area in streaming specifically, and the interest both from the consumer's side of the equation and for us of particular importance, interest from the buyers who are really seeking the opportunity to connect with consumers within this particular context where they are so leaned in. We see exceptional level of engagement. We want to make sure that how they're buying, the mechanics that underpin their capabilities within a programmatic context are akin with the manner in which they're accustomed to buying those opportunities in a more linear fashion. So as you can imagine, huge area of interest, significant investment, and huge potential to really innovate. So it's an exciting opportunity.
So within that context of live streaming, to a lot of advertisers, a lot of media buyers, I imagine it looks like regular old linear TV. It's live, but it's obviously in a programmatic context, it's different. So what are the biggest challenges in monetizing live streaming inventory, and how can publishers and advertisers maximize their revenue opportunities?
Yeah, I think there are a number of things that we want to draw from that linear experience, but there's also, I think, an opportunity to recreate the opportunity, the experience for buyers in new ways. If we think about the multicast or the simulcast that was representative of a linear experience where historically the user saw the same thing across all sort of regions and geographies, that was obviously indicative of a multicast scenario. In the programmatic context, by comparison, we have the ability to create unique experiences for every single user. That is a fundamental change. From an advertiser's standpoint, that creates a whole new set of capabilities and potentially opportunities to engage with users in these really unique environments in a whole different way. Now, obviously, there are technical challenges that we need to ensure are in place to be able to support that. Certainly from a standards perspective, from an infrastructure perspective, recognizing these hyperscale events present really, really unique obstacles and challenges. So we have some of those pieces in place, but certainly not all. I feel as though I'm constantly repeating this sort of position around the need for standards, and those will come. But we don't want to wait for the industry to necessarily align to those before we create what I think are meaningful opportunities today. And so foundationally, we have the infrastructure in place to, again, be able to support these hyperscale events. You can imagine a large sporting events where, in spite of all the efforts that go into forecasting these events, sometimes it exceeds expectations. What happens in those scenarios? Perfect opportunity for programmatic to fill those gaps. And so we're doing that today. But the absence of really specific standards that are tailored to sporting events in programmatic or live events in programmatic creates further opportunity to really improve that experience for the advertisers, more predictability around these scale events, being able to tailor the experience, as I said, to unique individuals at the device level. All of those things are coming together, and we're really excited for what it means for the consumer, certainly as a tailored experience might entail, and then obviously for the advertisers looking to connect on an individual basis.
You outlined the way to surmount those hurdles, those technical hurdles really well. Just wanted to drill down on a few more of the challenges involved that a live streaming presents, such as latency and real-time ad insertion. How is Index Exchange addressing those technical hurdles?
It really boils down to the standards first and foremost, but again, a layer before that, which I mentioned, is the infrastructure that underpins these hyperscale events. Without that, you're going to experience latency, as you identified, but perhaps even more concerning is actually dropping of impressions, or not actually being able to signal downstream to the DSP, to the buyer, the opportunity to address an individual user. Those circumstances happen today, and so it's really important that for those who are engaging within these environments, that you are posing the question to the vendors and the individuals that are supporting the campaigns that you're delivering in these instances. Do you have the capacity? Do you have the scale to be able to support these live streaming events because they are so uniquely technically challenging? Have that conversation first. Ask the question around infrastructure. Ask the question around capabilities and support. Ensure that the downstream DSPs are being signaled in a manner that would align to these live stream events. There are specific parameters within the protocol today that are in place to identify these sporting events. Are they appropriately being leveraged? These are just, I would say, table stakes today. What we're looking at beyond that in the standards that we're developing with, in collaboration with industry practitioners and, of course, the Tech Lab, is taking that to a whole other level where we can start to anticipate the load corresponding to these hyperscale events and pre-ingesting and pre-preparing, if you will, for these events in a way that will allow us to anticipate the high influx, have the campaigns available and ready on demand, if you will, so that we can get ahead of what happens in the moment by having a whole bunch of high quality campaigns at the ready. That's sort of, in layman's terms, an approach that is being taken to satisfy the needs that are, again, very unique to these particular circumstances.
So you just went through a lot of really exciting advances that to look forward to, especially as you get standards in place. Are there any other innovations, advances that you're particularly excited about in terms of the technology surrounding live streaming?
I think that we have to embrace in a manner that is not fully being leveraged today, specifically programmatic in the context of live. The use case is absolutely perfect for these events, again, where sometimes the forecast doesn't fully represent the audience corresponding to these events. Expectation certainly is that we will, the media owners, I should say, will pre-sell in advance as much as they can. Sometimes we've had recent examples of these, whether it's the Super Bowl or recent Four Nations in hockey, or any of these events where often the audiences are far greater than we expect. As opposed to relying on a spot market or scatter market for these instances, which are robust and meaningful, programmatic becomes a great option to apply in these cases where demand and liquidity is beneath what was directly sold. Bring in programmatic to supplement, and all of a sudden you've got a really great addition of incremental demand or liquidity in instances where otherwise you might have either repetitive ads or in fact no ads, which I think all of us have experienced. And as a user, that's not a great experience. Programmatic is perfectly well suited to be able to fill those gaps. Beyond that, there are instances where programmatic demand may even exceed the demand that's represented by the direct side of the house. And so you can potentially have a competitive dynamic that's actually pushing up and creating upward pricing pressure on the value of any given impression. I think there's more to be done on that side of the business. We're moving in that direction, which is really exciting. But I would love for that to be a more consistent pattern of use for programmatic in live events. And I think we're just going to see greater value, greater monetization, more liquidity for these incredibly unique, technically challenging opportunities that are becoming more and more persistent within the streaming environment.